Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first let's hear from our podcast sponsors. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive for their support of the podcast. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and check out their indoor scoring tables and video boards. They not only generate income for your department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, set up a live web demo. We've got one in our gym, and it's just fantastic. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown has acquired Ticket Spigot, and together they're going to provide a stronger and more comprehensive digital ticketing and event management solution for your schools. Right now, go to hometownticketing.com and you're going to find out how you can sell your tickets online, scan your attendees, and collect your revenue. And every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. They'll also show you how to sell tickets for things like school dances, your plays, your concerts, even graduation. You can find it all at hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school's record boards for all your sports, along with your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and check out their collection of interactive touchscreen video consoles. They're going to help you display the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Okay, that's vitalsignswalloffame.com. They're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile. Go to snapmobile.com and check out their entire suite of platforms designed to help you as an athletic director do your job better. Snap Raise is their fundraising platform, and they've helped schools just like yours raise over $700 million. Our coaches use Snap Raise, and it was just fantastic. They even have a program where you can get your funding before you actually do your fundraiser. Does anybody else offer that? Go to snapraise.com and check out Snap Store, Snap Sponsor, Snap Connect. Like I said, the entire suite of platforms. You can find it all at snapraise.com. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Gipper's the way athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. Go to Gipper.com and tell them you heard about it on the podcast. Use our code ADPOD10 and get 10% off. That's Gipper.com. Create custom branded content for your school's social media channel. We want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to Huddle.com and find out how your school can become a Huddle school. Over 200,000 teams use Huddle to capture, analyze, and learn from video and data. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches just love the smart cameras, the mobile apps. Of course, they love the analytics, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com and you're going to find the tools to help your teams, your coaches, and your athletes improve. And it's going to be a professional grade solution. That's huddle.com. We believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to thank Final Forms, the industry leader in forms and registration, but there's so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with mobile apps, with reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that come with athletics. Final Forms can also help your coaches with things like attendance and communication. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help you with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. You know, it's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. And we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. At my school, we use surveys for just about everything, for kids, for coaches, for teachers, and for parents. And the information that would come back was almost always positive, and it'll be the same for you. But surveys also allow that squeaky wheel parent to vent a little. And sometimes they're going to share an issue that you can address and keep it from turning into a big problem because you didn't know about it because you hadn't done a survey. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com for more information. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the pros at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We have a really cool guest today. We've got a podcast brother all the way from South Carolina. Our guest today is Thomas Fredrickson. Thomas is a certified master athletic administrator and very active at the national level. He recently presented a workshop at the NADC in Nashville. He's also the chair of the technical courses for the NIAAA. And as I mentioned, he's a podcaster. Recently started the Middle School Athletic Director podcast, which is become very, very popular. It's a great show. And I also, in his spare time, he's the athletic director at Northwest Middle School in Travelers Rest, South Carolina. So, Thomas Fredrickson, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thanks, Jake. Again, I appreciate all you do and kind of being one of the first starters and the originators of this AD podcast thing.
Well, it's been fun to see it grow. And again, I thank you for those kind words. We actually have recently we had a guest on, Ryan Walker, who's one of the hosts of the original, athletic director podcast, the off-duty ADs.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about the history. Again, I certainly wasn't the first, but I enjoy what I'm doing. You do a great job with yours. So let's go and jump right in. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that origin story, where you were born, where you grew up, your sports background. Maybe take us up through the college years, and then we'll take a break and hear more about your early career. So what's the Thomas Fredrickson origin story?
Yeah, good deal. So a lot of people might not know where Travelers Rest is, where I am currently, but I was born in Charleston, South Carolina, which a lot of people know of. So it was born there. My dad was a music teacher, and then he decided he wanted to go into the ministry, so we moved to New Orleans so he could go to seminary. Then basically after that, every time I say I changed a major school, I changed locations. So in elementary school, we were in Columbia. In middle school, we were in Camden, which is right outside Columbia. And then in high school, we moved up to Anderson, which is around the Clemson area, for those that don't really know. And so kind of been there since, but played, basically I was 3-sport athlete growing up through elementary school and middle school, baseball, soccer, and basketball. Baseball was really kind of the love. Started playing it at 3-year-old T-ball all the way up to eighth grade. But basically then I went blind. I'm legally blind without my contacts, and I couldn't see the pitches anymore. My eyes were changing so bad, so I had to stick with the bigger balls, which was basketball and soccer. And then my height kind of got me away from basketball, because again, I'm only 5'7", so there's not that many 5'7" point guards out there anymore, and so I kind of transitioned that into soccer, because it really doesn't matter your height in soccer. And that's what I played through high school and 2 years of college. And then, basically once I got to, I went to Anderson College, but now it's Anderson University there in South Carolina, and played 2 years there, but then started getting real heavily involved in there. I was a PE major, so getting involved in the PE major club that we had, just starting to dabble in the leadership side of it, became like the club president. And so just kind of got the knack for, or the itch for leading people other than middle school or high school students. And so that was fun, and that's kind of where we got into the career of PE and coaching.
Excuse me. It's so great to hear about a university that still has a PE major. Back in the day, that's what, you went to college, to be a teacher, a coach. And now it seems like so many of the programs, it's exercise science, or, they even have undergraduate programs now for athletic directors. But yeah, good for you and good for Anderson having that PE major. Can you think of some experiences maybe in the coursework? I'm flashbacking to my own undergraduate years. Can you think of any lessons learned as an undergrad that you've seen play out for you, as a coach or an AD in your current job?
Yeah, well, probably just all of the education classes that I had to take. Not just the physical education classes where we learned how to teach the different things within the physical education world, but we had to also take all the academic education courses as well. So just, being able to sit in those classes and basically see the other side of, what they're doing and what they're having to go through. I think it's kind of helped, especially, starting off coaching, understanding, okay, these players, these athletes have these other things to do. Cause I started coaching at high school, my junior year in college. And that's really why I didn't play anymore, because I knew I wasn't going to be a professional player, but I wanted to coach. So, it kind of helped starting coaching in college, but then also being able to sit in those classes and kind of see how the academics and the athletics can work, but also how they can go against each other if they don't work with each other.
And you bring up such a great point. And again, those pedagogy classes, that we took, I can say we, because you said you took them. We had, aspiring math teachers, history teachers, language arts teachers side by side with us in those classrooms, and we were PE majors. But again, you can tell, I think that young coach that has not gone through that pedagogical training, when you see them, they are so very important. Great point. For our listeners, our guest today is Thomas Fredrickson. He's a certified master athletic administrator, part of the NIAAA's national faculty, middle school athletic director, also the host of his very own popular podcast. We're going to hear more about that, but let's take our first break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive for their support of the podcast. Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards not only generate income for your department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. We've got a Sideline Interactive score table in our gym, and it's just fantastic. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile, and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com to find out what they can do for you. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing for their support. Go to hometownticketing.com. They're going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets online. They'll show you how to scan the attendees that come to your games and collect your revenue. And every step of the way, you'll have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to Hometown Ticketing, and they'll show you how to set up and sell tickets for things like school dances, your school plays and concerts, even graduation. You can find it all at hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Thomas Fredrickson. He's the athletic director at Northwest Middle School in Travelers Rest, South Carolina. Thomas, you kind of took us up to through the college years. You mentioned that you actually started coaching while you were still an undergraduate student. Talk about that early path, some of those first jobs that ended up leading to your present position as an athletic director.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, junior in college is when I started coaching soccer at actually my alma mater high school, that the local high school there in Anderson, and pretty much just a volunteer position. Um, I knew the coaches very well there. They it was on the female side, so they were there when I was there. Um, but the male side already had a full staff, so they brought me in and basically the JV coach gave me the JV team. He was pretty much still the JV, head coach. He got paid. He had to answer to all the parents and all that. But he pretty much let me lead that team. And he kind of focused more on helping the varsity team because they were pretty good. And they had a great shot of going pretty far in the state playoffs. And so that was fun. And because I still had to deal with some parents, so I got used to dealing with parents there and all that. And why did my daughter not play and all of that, fun stuff that we deal with as coaches. So I got to deal with that as a college student. But then the next year, the rival high school in Anderson, West Side, actually, I knew the coach there, and he said, "Look, I've got the head JV opening, paid position. Do you want to come coach?" I'm like, well, again, it's a senior in college. I'm like, yeah, I'll take anything. So that's kind of was my first head coaching, I guess, if you want to say job, was a senior in college. Loved it. The coach and I, we kind of built the program. We were like a mediocre team. You going from the school I was at Hannah, which is a very, very talented girls team, and you go to the rival, which was kind of the middle of the road. It's different coaching styles. But he was a great, I know we'll get to it later, but he was a great kind of help on the coaching side of it on, go get your coaching certification. Why are you doing this? Why do you plan to practice this way? And all of that. So it was nice for him to kind of dive into me that way. So I was there for 4 years. We built a pretty good program, and then he left. And then I left as well that same year and went to another local high school to become the girls varsity coach. So that was so that was obviously a fun time being able to take my program over the first after basically 4 years. So I was 24 at this time. And that was, finding out all that. Had a great AD there again that kind of helped lead me and help, and stayed there for 3 or 4 years, was very successful. When I came in, they were defeated. And then when I left, we were ranked third in the state. And this was a small country school having to go against the private schools, so we did pretty well there. And so then finally moved up to Greenville, kind of the area I am now. And then bounced around a little bit, some JV jobs here and a middle school job there, before I got another varsity job at Greer High School. And I was there for 2 years. But while I was coaching there, I kind of accepted that job in April or May the previous year. But then that summer is when I started teaching at Hillcrest Middle School here in Greenville County, and as a PE teacher. But that's when I first got into the AD world. So I was the AD at Hillcrest Middle, which is on the lower part of Greenville County, but I was coaching at Greer High School, which is on the upper part of Greenville County. So it's about a 30, 45-minute difference. Again, went to my principal, said, "Hey, look, I've already committed to this. But it's still early in the year. They can find somebody. Do I need to back out of it?" And she was a former cheerleader at Clemson. She also coached the cheerleading team at Clemson for a while, so she understood it. And she goes, "No, we'll make it work." So that was nice, but I was able to, get my feet wet in the AD world there for 2 years and coached there at the high school. And then after that, this is bringing us about 2017. Then I applied. We had another local. Again, we have 15 high schools in our district, 20 middle schools. So there's a lot of local schools in our district. But so now 2017, one of the high schools came open with an athletic director position. So I applied for that. Was lucky enough to get it. Was there for 4 years, and that's kind of where I really dove into everything. NIAAA, SCAAA, built, went through the ups and downs of an athletic department, growing an athletic department, but had very good success there. Again, it was there for 4 years, and, small, we have 5As in South Carolina for classifications. That was a 3A, so kind of right in the middle. But very successful, big basketball school. And, but then, a big 5A, the 10th largest school in the state opened up, and I knew the principal there and all that. So I was like, hey, we'll see. Put my name in there, was able to get that position at that school as well. But then a week after I was hired at that position, the principal told me he's going to the district office. So, a new principal came in, and we had to learn each other. And just basically at the end of that year, we just decided it wasn't the right fit. Maybe we saw things a little differently. And so then that's when I moved up to Travelers Rest and back to the middle school ranks. Even when the 5-6 years I was at the high school, I still loved the middle school age, loved everything middle school, and tried to help them out as much as possible. But I'm excited to be back in the middle school again. Got a great principal. Actually coached against him in the soccer world, and so it's nice to kind of see how things come around.
Again, I'd love to hear the stories, and you touch on a great point. All of those earlier jobs, the JV volunteer, JV basketball coach, and then that first position. It's, getting that experience and making those connections, having other people, see you in action, hey, this guy can coach. There's just so important down the road. And again, as an much older, athletic director, I can't tell you the number of interviews that I would have with potential coaches that were, just out of college, et cetera, that we were talking about let's say a middle school coaching position at our school, and they were almost offended that we would, they would say, well, geez, middle school, I should be coaching varsity. And, it just seems like, that awareness of how those JV coach positions, middle school coach positions can impact you down the road. So, again, my hat's off to you. Obviously, you've done things the right way, and you're doing a great job, at your current school. We're going to take another break, and you kind of touched on the idea of mentors. We're going to talk about that when we come back. For our listeners, our guest today is Thomas Fredrickson, Certified Master Athletic Administrator and Middle School Athletic Director in South Carolina. So let's take another break, but we'll be back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank our friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support. They are on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school's record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and check out their interactive touchscreen video consoles. They've also got a variety of templates to help demonstrate the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and see what they can do for you. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank our good friends at Snap. Go to snapraise.com and check out their entire suite of platforms designed to help you as an athletic director do your job better. SnapRaise is the fundraising platform. Our coaches have used it with great success, and they've helped schools just like yours raise over $700 million. They even have a program where you can get your funding before you actually start your fundraiser. Does any other platform offer that? Go to snapraise.com, check out their entire suite, and see what they can do for you. That's snapraise.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Thomas, in that previous segment, you kind of hinted at some mentors that you had in your life. We always like to give them a shout out. Obviously, none of us get to where we're at on our own. Excuse me. So who are some of the mentors that have helped you along the way?
Yeah, like I mentioned, that first coach, Ryan Roseberry, he probably doesn't realize it. And we really haven't spoke in years, but I've kind of seen his dad on the coaching side, but he was kind of the first one that introduced me into the importance of getting certified. At that time it was, on the coaches side, on the, in the soccer coaching certification, going and getting their licenses with the national organization, working your way up from a D, or from starting at E all the way to basically as high as you want to go. For them, the A is the highest, and that's the, kind of the national certification. But he kind of introduced me in just to always wanting to get better, going out and reading books and watching videos, and on the field side of it, on the coaching side of it, how to plan an organized practice, and why is it set up this way. And because at first, my first day out there, I probably had 100 cones, to thinking that I needed to cone everything. And basically he was like, no, you probably only need like 10 or 12, but it's just positioning them the right way, so when you transition, it transitions well. So on the coaching side of it, he kind of helped me mold my coaching style, and kind of what I did that way. On the athletic director side, I got two. One is when I was at Greer High School, coaching girls, the varsity soccer team, but starting at the Hillcrest Middle, AD world. I actually kind of watched the athletic director there at the high school, Travis Perry. He did a great job. He was very involved with the state association, with the national association, and just a fun mentor. A couple years ago, unfortunately, he lost the battle to cancer. But just watching him and how he interacted with his coaches and how he interacted with me, just kind of, it was, I tried to, especially there when I was being a middle school AD and working under him at the high school. I tried to do some of the things that he was doing, and trying to learn from him. Really, probably the biggest mentor is a name that everybody on this podcast knows, is Daryl Nance. And I know he gets tired of me saying his name, but he means a lot to me. And he's really one of the reasons why I was able to get that first AD job. When I got the PE job at that middle school, there was another coach and teacher named the AD, but he basically had a conversation with that principal and said, "Hey, do you really want this person as your AD? You've got what people know me as Freddie. You got Freddie coming in. I think he'd do a great job." And so she made the change, and I'm forever grateful for that. And and then just sitting in district meetings with him at that first year, and him talking about the NIAAA, and him talking about the importance of getting involved, and that was his first year as the district AD. He had just come off of being a high school building AD. So it was kind of fun he was his first year as a district AD, my first year as an AD altogether. So it was, but basically, he's been there for me the whole time, and I've, kind of watched how he's done things, when he was an AD coach, but also now as a district AD, but also, and then how did he marriages, his life and his work, and things like, I mean, just everything. I look at, and, I told him eventually, I said, the main goal is to be walking around, NADC with that Navy jacket like you do. I don't know if I went all the way to the presidency like you did, but at least getting, up to, working your way up and getting onto the board, and all that. So that's a big goal. But yeah, he's been one of the biggest ones, and he's been there. Not only it's just a person to watch, but he's been an ear, he's been a shoulder. He's been everything. He's been there through the best times of my professional and personal life, and he's been there on the low times. And I know, he's always going to answer the phone or call me back if he can't. But that's definitely one that I owe a lot of my gratitude and appreciation for.
No, absolutely. You recently had Daryl on your podcast, great episode. We actually had Daryl on, our podcast. He was the 150th guest. His toolbox tips were the final brick, if you will, in our first book. And one thing you didn't mention about Daryl, he leads the NIAAA cohort
Mhm.
program, which, if you're listening, probably one of the, maybe not the best professional development experience, I was ever a part of, being a part of that very first cohort. So, if you can, get signed up, get involved in one of the NIAAA cohorts, Daryl runs that program, just fantastic.
Yeah, I
Um,
can second that. I just came out of the leadership one, so
oh, that's
it's
right. That's right. Okay. Yeah,
it's a
absolutely. No,
it's
they're
a
great.
great.
So, um, let's go and talk a little bit about that journey that hopefully all of our ADs go on. You're certainly a young AD, but we have, young ADs that are just starting their journey in the profession. So talk a little bit more about, getting involved, at the state level and how that's led to your involvement now where you're chair of one of the national LTI courses.
Yeah, so really my path was opposite. I got more involved with the national before I did the state. So, when we were sitting in that district meeting, like I said, Daryl said, go to the conference, go to your principal, see if they'll let you go to the conference. And so that was Orlando. Last time we were in Orlando was my first conference. And again, I didn't know anything about certifications. I didn't know anything about all that stuff. I looked at the classes. I took 4 classes. I just looked at the classes and picked ones that I thought would be great. Of course, I didn't pick any of the legal ones because I didn't want to sit down in any of those. Uh, but I picked, like 2 700 level classes and 2 600 level classes, and so I pretty much already had my qualifications for the CAA before I even knew what I was doing. Um, so, but then, yeah, just going to that national conference and just, attending everything. Um, and then, starts, piquing the interest. And then after that, then actually going back to Daryl and be like, all right, what is this, all this about? I heard about this. I heard about this. I heard, what is this? And so then that's when he kind of got on the path of the RAA. And I was like, okay, well, I need to go take these classes. So I did that. And then, I think it was a year, or I guess right at the 2 year mark, I got my CAA because I already had all the classes. I was just waiting on the 2 year experience. And so, got that quick. And I think I took that test in Arizona. I remember as soon as I walked out, I texted Daryl. I said, I failed the crap out of that thing. But then, at that time, it wasn't an instant result. So, I had to wait a couple days, and then they sent an email saying that I passed it. Um, so that was, getting the CAA. And then, I never once was settled with the CAA. I'm like, I want if the highest one is the CMAA, that's where I'm going. And so then, made sure started getting all the qualifications for that. And my CMAA project was I created a weight room there at the Hillcrest Middle. So, again, this was 3 or 4 years later after I'd already left there. Luckily, I still had pictures of it and things like that. So I kind of made my project off of that. I was able to get CMAA. So really kind of about that time, um, I would go to our SC conference. And because our spring conference is kind of incorporated with our high school league. So the first couple of days is the AD side of it. The second couple of days is all the voting and all that for the high school league for the new recommendations for the following year. So obviously, as a high school AD, I had to go to those things and vote and be in those meetings. So again, didn't really know much about the SC AAA. Knew Daryl and Travis were big in it. So again, just started asking more questions. And so again, I don't know, it was right before COVID, I believe. So early 2020. And it's, basically I went on their website, went on their Twitter, went on the social media, and there was nothing. And so I reached out to the executive director and the president at the time, and I said, "Hey, can I help? I mean, can I help post stuff on Twitter? Can I help with your website? I think I do a pretty good job at this. Can I help?" Um, and so, they were like, "Yeah, sure." And so, that year, obviously the COVID year, everything was virtual for our spring conference. But they invited me down to their, as their mothership, if they want to call it. We all went down to Hilton Head and got in a conference room and put on the virtual conference. But all the board of directors people were there and everything. And I kind of just came in as their tech guy for that conference, just to get information out. Because a lot of them, again, didn't know how to do it or didn't know how to set up new accounts or whatever. But then after that, about a month later, they voted me in as the basically the marketing and media director for the SCAAA on the board. So I kind of got jumped in quick, which I wouldn't turn it for the world. The relationships I've built from the South Carolina board has been great. And so yeah, I've kind of done things backwards. I started more NIAAA and then went the SCAAA. But yes, now, like you said, I've taught a ton of classes at the state level. I've taught, obviously 613, 614 at the national level. I'm on the accreditation committee now for the national level national organization. And again, just trying to work my way up and try to do everything I can to help other ADs.
Well, again, you really have done a great job, working backwards with the podcast. And, I got to see you present at the national conference this year, really cool stuff. We'll do this again at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain, and listeners, you got a great resource here. What's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Easiest way is probably Twitter. My username there is just AD Freddy. So that's ADFREDDY. I'm on that on Twitter almost all the time. That's the easiest way. Email wise, my school one's kind of complicated, so I'll just give you the middle school AD podcast one, and it's just that middle school AD podcast at gmail.com.
Okay. Well, again, Thomas Fredrickson, athletic director, podcast host, tech guru. We're gonna have to get you on Tech Tuesday. We're gonna take another quick break, but we'll be back with some more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Gipper for their support of the podcast. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors and coaches are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. Go to Gipper.com, tell them you heard about it on the podcast, and use our podcast code ADPOD10 and get 10% off. That's Gipper.com. Create custom branded content for your school's social media channel. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to Huddle.com and see how athletic directors are helping their coaches and their athletes play at the highest level. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. As an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the smart cameras, the mobile apps. Of course, they love the analytics, but there's so much more. Go to Huddle.com and find the tools that will help your teams, your coaches, and your athletes perform at their very best. Huddle is going to provide a professional grade solution for the challenges that you face. At Huddle, we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 6 million users and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's Huddle.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Thomas Fredrickson, Certified Master Athletic Administrator, Middle School AD, and the host of a very cool podcast, the Middle School Athletic Director Podcast. Thomas, talk a little bit about how that all came together. I think you've been going now for a few months, and again, very popular, very well done. I enjoyed listening to it. Share a little bit about how it all came together.
Yeah, so I wanted to do a podcast a year or so ago, and we tried one that was kind of similar to what you do, and kind of focused more on the high school the side of it. And I just felt like it wasn't getting the response that I wanted. It was kind of hard to get guests and things like that, and um, so we kind of just I just kind of scratched it, and just kind of sat on that idea. Okay, I got to find something because I want to do something. I'm big on professional development and helping others get better. And so I was like, we'll just sit on it. So then once I came back to the middle school realm, then I'm like, well, there it is. There's nothing out there for middle school athletic directors, podcast wise. The yours and the others and all that hit on high school and hit on leadership and hit on things that could benefit middle school, high school, college, whichever. It could benefit all levels. But I wanted to find one that was just solely focused on the middle school athletics because it's a different beast. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things are similar. Leadership is leadership, but a lot of things are similar, but a lot of things are different in the way that you have to approach a middle school student, middle school parents. A lot of it is introducing interscholastic sports now to families because most of them have just, especially if this is the first child, most of them that child has been playing travel ball, has been playing AAU or playing the Y ball or church ball up until this point. And so just kind of, what is the differences and all of that and school and leadership and yes, it's been phenomenal. We kind of kicked off at I think the last weekend in um, August with Daryl, and it's been great. Like I said, I'm lucky. We'll have you on in the spring. We got some big hitters in the spring with some big NIAAA people. So it's been fun, and like you said, the response has been overwhelming. Because like I said, I think people are wanting maybe middle school ads that want to maybe try to go to the high school or that are like where they are. It's a lot of good conversations, and like I said, I've learned a lot just speaking with the different guests, and like I said, some of it, well, not some of it, but a lot of it can go into the high school level as well because we talk a lot about leadership. We talk about a lot about, like you said, best practices and things like that. Really, there's only one question about what are the challenges of a middle school athletic director, and most of it comes down to getting them from the club, the travel world into the interscholastic world. That's what mainly the main discussion has been on the past couple episodes. But all the other stuff, I mean, anybody, a high school AD, a college AD, a middle school AD, middle school, high school coach can listen to and get stuff out of it. So it's been very, very great and very good professional development, hopefully to others, but definitely to myself.
No, I can certainly echo that. And again, we've talked about this a couple of different times, but I think it bears repeating. And before we even go there, just as you said, the focus on middle school, it is a different environment, a different animal, if you will. I got my start at the middle school level, and just loved it. And people will say, well, "You enjoyed middle school?" I said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." And now, I mean, I'm fortunate enough for the last, gosh, I think 10 years, I've been on the middle school, the LTI faculty
Mhm.
for 700 and 701 with Holly Farnese and her team. So again, you found a niche, if you will, but again, it's not exclusive to high school or other applications. The things that you talk about and then that your guests share, they're applicable across the spectrum of being an athletic director, while at the same time it's got that middle school focus. Great stuff. I know you're a tech guy, but I remember, I was a guest on the Hanging with the AD podcast, back in the day. And, Don Baker, Josh Matthews, they were so friendly. They were so professional. They made me feel so good about sharing about my school and our coaches that I said, hey, I think I'd like to do this for our Florida ADs. And I literally came home and Googled, how do you do a podcast? And got started that way. For you as more of a tech guy and obviously more that, let's say, the podcast generation, what were your challenges? Were there any challenges when you first started out doing it?
Well, the biggest thing is just I just didn't have any equipment. It's good quality equipment. I had a little plug and play microphone that I'd gotten, a year ago, just to kind of make my vocals a little better in Zoom meetings, because that's all we were doing at the time. But so that was really the biggest thing. It's just, and then I kind of already knew, kind of watching the way you do it and the way Hanging with the AD does it, and the Zoom style interview. I kind of already knew that's kind of where I wanted to go with that. So that wasn't a big challenge, because by the time we got started with this, I think we all know how to use Zoom pretty well. But it was just, the biggest thing was just trying to figure out how to get the podcast out there. And like I said, I know I can put it on YouTube easy, but how to get it to all the different platforms. And listening to you, I think I got from the Anchor thing from you, and when you were talking about it in different episodes. So dived into that and went through all that, and was able to figure that out, and pick the platforms. Again, I didn't pick all the platforms to put it out to, just to me, I think that the more popular ones. But then after like the episode 1 or 2, I'm like, I'm tired of tagging all these ways to listen to it, the Apple and Google and Anchor and Amazon. So then I'm like, well, let me figure out how to get it on one central location. And I think I kind of saw this with Hanging with the AD. They have something very similar. But I'm a big Google guy. That I think that's why I'm became the chair of that class at the NIAAA. But so I basically just created a Google site for the podcast, and that's where I send everybody to. And it's got the links to everything. It's got the links to YouTube, to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whichever podcasts they have. So again, Google sites are very user friendly on the phone. So so whenever you see that it's out or you want to listen to it, you just go to that Google site, and you can just click on which platform you want to listen to the podcast right there from the phone, instead of trying to have to find it or search it. So it makes life easy, to kind of have one central location. And so there the first tab is kind of all the episodes that have already aired. And then I have a tab for upcoming episodes, so everybody see who's coming up, and a tab for the sponsors, so that the listeners can go and click on the sponsors' websites directly. So it's just, again, an easier way to get to their websites. But that's been good, because I've been able to tag Google Analytics to it and kind of see what works and what doesn't work. And Google Analytics is a whole nother podcast in itself, because it can dive into everything about even of did a person click on it from an iPhone or from Samsung, and were they sitting in a Starbucks or were they standing outside of Starbucks? I mean, they can really go into a lot of stuff. And so, but that's been good to be able to kind of see the traffic that is coming through. And so it's been fun. And we got a little home set up. And so yeah, the technology side, I've got about 4 screens rolling right now, but the technology side wasn't terrible. It was just trying to figure out how to get it out there.
Oops, let's see. Talking about technical. There we go. Okay, we're back. Yeah, you and I were talking a little bit at Nashville about that. I think number one, we got to get you on a Tech Tuesday and maybe talk about, that Google app. I think that'd be a great episode. And then just personally, some of the things that you were sharing with me, I need to maybe up my podcast game a little bit. We're very, I joke, but it's true. We're very low tech here. We Zoom, we screen share, and I lean on the Anchor platform very heavily for my analytics, but it sounds like, Google might have some things for me.
Yeah, and
Very cool.
I didn't
Oh, go
mention
ahead.
the website. The website name's kind of long, but I try to keep everything consistent, so people aren't trying to search for everything. But so the website is middlesschooladpodcast.com, and it's the exact same with the Gmail, middlesschooladpodcast@gmail. So it's kind of long the type in there, but at least you know where you're going.
So again, to check out your website, that's middlesschooladpodcast.com. If they go there, they're going to be able to see all the things that you've got available for, your podcast.
Yes, sir.
All right. Very cool. Once again, our guest is Thomas Fredrickson. He's a certified master athletic administrator. He's a middle school AD in South Carolina. He's on the national faculty, and he's also the host of the Middle School Athletic Director podcast. We're going to hear some more, but let's take another quick break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back. We want to say thanks to Final Forms for their support of the podcast. Final Forms is the industry leader in forms and registration, but there's so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility. They also have reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that come when you have an athlete in the house. Final Forms can help your coaches with things like attendance and communication. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help you with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. It's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Thomas, one of the things we try to do with our podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little. What are some things that you do at your school, or maybe you've done at other schools, that you would consider to be best practices that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm big on getting our voice out. And whether the easiest way to get your voice out is social media nowadays. But so that kind of started a couple years ago, just with with Gipper and all that stuff that came about, and was able to at one of the high schools I was at promote our athletic department. Just the typical what everyone's doing. It's game day, score updates, announcements, things like that, but making sure that I highlighted every sport. When I moved to the other high school, I actually decided well, this again, it's a huge high school. I'm not going to be able to do it all by myself. So how can I get students involved? Because I have a voice, but the students don't want to hear my voice. They want to hear each other's voices. And they want to tell the voice of our athletic department. And because again, it's their athletic department, it's their experience, it's what they want. So I started a student media group. Here at Northwest Middle, we do it as well. We just call it media specialists, but or media ambassadors. But basically, what those students do is they have access to Gipper, so they do a lot of the post. So that at games they're doing the score updates, they're doing different things. They're doing the game day things, they're doing the players of the games, they're doing all the different posts we put out there. And so that's the easy part of it. But part of that too is, every Monday we do a Monday memory, we do a Tuesday travel, we do a Thursday thankful Thursday. So we're highlighting the in-sport athletes every day, in some way or fashion, not just what they're doing on the court or on the field, but kind of who they are. So, on a basketball team, that 12th or 13th player who hardly ever gets any playing time, might not get a lot of pictures or a lot of posts that way, is being highlighted on Monday as, what's their favorite basketball memory, or where do they want to travel to on Tuesday. Again, it's just trying to get people to know our student athletes and our coaches more personal, and trying to get to know them as a person more than just the athlete they are on the court or field. So that's been good. But also part of this media specialist group is they do everything for media. They announce at the basketball and volleyball games. They run the PA system, which again, we have Neptune game time. So I can trust giving, an eighth grader, or even at the high school, a ninth or 10th grader, access to the music. But they run all the music. We have I think, like I said, you heard it. We turned an old scores table into a digital score table just by inserting TVs. So we have a digital scores table. We have a sixth grader, which is, that does a phenomenal job, but she actually runs that during basketball games. And so when someone scores, a picture flashes up and graphics come up, and so it's great experience. And obviously we've got students that are taking pictures, that are taking videos, that are interviewing people. So we've got, it's about 9 to 10 students that are leading this media, our marketing group, if you want to call it. And this is just all volunteer. Again, this isn't a class. I'm trying to hopefully try to get it to be an elective class, but right now it's not. And so these are just the students that want to be involved in athletics, and some of them are athletes, and so they participate on the seasons that they're not playing. But I'd say over half of them are not athletes, but they enjoy sports, they enjoy athletics, and they want to be involved. And so that was kind of my biggest push, and still to grow it. Ultimately, I want to grow it into like a sports career academy type deal, where people that really maybe don't have the skill or the drive to be an athlete, but love sports and still want to be involved in it, get to dive in and experience what it is to do everything else. Because as we all know, as an AD, there may be, we're in basketball season right now, let's say, so there may be 12 to 15 basketball players, but there's so many people behind the scenes that make a basketball game happen, that make a good media team, a good experience, and all that happen. And so just go ahead and to introduce these students to that idea of, you still can go work for, the Chicago Bulls or the Carolina Panthers or the whatever, as a photographer, as an announcer, as a and so you can still be involved in all these great organizations. When you go to college, you still can, be involved in traveling to all these great football games or basketball games, and getting all that paid for, because you're the team photographer, or you're the team media person, or you're the whatever. And so that's kind of been a passion of mine, is just trying to grow the love of athletics, but not just on the skill side, that the player side, but the other side as well. About these are all things that can be done within the sports world, and it helps. It takes some off my plate too. So.
No, absolutely. It's a topic that, I've shared for a number of years, that every school has kids like that, whether you want to call them sports nerds or sports geeks, they just love everything about sports, but, they're not let's say, a gifted soccer player, basketball player, but all those roles that you talked about. And one, I don't think you mentioned, at my schools, we were very successful at finding student public address announcers that just
Yeah, we have
really thrived in that role. In fact, one at my previous school, we actually found him. He found us as a sixth grader in our middle school. And by the time he was in the seventh grade, he was announcing home varsity football games, varsity volleyball games. He's in his junior year right now in high school. Last year as a sophomore, he called me up. He was asked to be the guest announcer at Florida State University's women's basketball game, D1 basketball. And
Yeah.
here's
Wow.
a sophomore in high school. So again, those examples that you gave, just great for the kids, but you also hit on another great point. It's taking stuff off your plate that
Mhm.
you don't have to worry about as an AD. Great, great segment.
And that's what we kind of talk about on the middle school podcast is a lot of the stuff doesn't have to wait till the high school. Like I said, I've got an 8th grader that's doing public, she's our PA announcer. I've got a 6th grader that's running our digital uh experience. And so and it's one of those, and nobody else around us, I don't know if anybody else in South Carolina maybe, but that has the digital experience that we have during a game. And like you said, I've got a 6th grader running it. I've got an 8th grader doing announcing. And so it's one of those is you don't have to wait until high school to start these things. And that's a lot about what we talk about on the middle school podcast is what can we incorporate and get these kids in love with before they get to high school, where they do have more, yearbook, newspaper, broadcasting, whatever type of courses.
No, again, great point. It doesn't have to wait until they get to high school. Great point. Thomas, this has been so cool spending some extra time with you. And I think we've also created a couple new, future segments for the
Oh, yeah.
podcast, but we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with the athletic director toolbox. And, you certainly established that you know your way around the world of athletics, but we're going to take a quick break, hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor our toolbox segment. And when we come back, we're going to find out what Thomas Fredrickson is going to put into his new athletic director toolbox. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. Athletic Surveys are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. At my school, we use surveys for just about everything, for teachers, for coaches, for kids, and for parents. And the information that would come back was almost always over the top positive, and it'll probably be the same for you. But surveys also allow that squeaky wheel parent to vent a little bit. And sometimes they'd share a small issue that you could address and keep it from turning into a big issue because you didn't know about it because you hadn't done a survey. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the pros at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've just spent some time with Thomas Fredrickson, Certified Master Athletic Administrator, longtime AD, member of the National Faculty, just got a tremendous background. But now we're going to challenge him to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let him put 3 things in their toolbox. Thomas, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
All right. So think about this. It really didn't take long to think about it because it's 3 things that I really believe in. The first one is just relationship. I know you've heard, I think a lot of people have put that in their toolbox, but finding the relationship with your admin, with your coaches. And I think the easiest way, and we touched on this in the Daryl Nance episode, is finding the leadership style of each of your coaches. That way, how to speak with them. Because one coach, like I said, may be a red, where another coach is a yellow, and where one is they just want the facts, and there's no emotion attached to it. They just want the facts, where another coach they're all emotion, and so if you come in and just start spitting out facts, they may take that the wrong way. So just building those relationships and bringing your coaches through a leadership style evaluation. Again, there's a ton of them out there. But and that way you're able to know how to communicate with those coaches, not only coaches, really, the admin too. If that relationship is not there, then it's not going to be the best situation. So that's my first one, is find a way to build those relationships and figure out how to communicate with the people involved in your athletic department. The second one is just, now that you're an AD, now you've got a network. Now you've got to go to conferences. You've got to listen to podcasts. You've got to read. You've got to be a lifelong learner. And because I've seen so many, and I probably the people who are listening to is, once you get into that role, it's, you're done. You're right. You're there. You're going to do what maybe the previous AD did, or you're going to do what maybe an AD that you had did. And you're not looking to get better and to better your athletic department. So just being a lifelong learner, networking, getting to the national conference, getting to your state conference, building those relationships, because you never know when you're going to have to call somebody. And you never know when a situation happens. And like I said, I know it's been great, and I haven't had to use it, but I've heard stories about, people, driving across the nation and had a flat tire, but they knew somebody in those states because they've networked, and able to call those ADs, and they were able to find somebody close to them to help them out. So just getting involved with the state, getting involved with the national, and just building your networking notebook, if you want to call it so. And the last one is get involved in Google Workshop or the Work Suite. If you're not using Google, then you're missing out on a ton of free easy resources to get your information out and to collect information from your fans, from your coaches, for whatever. Like I said, well, I can spend 4 hours on Google, because that's what 613 is now. It's a 4-hour course. But if you're still not using Google, I would highly and advise you to get in Google, because if for nothing else, just the easy and the way you can share it with people. So again, there's a ton of different things you can use within Google, but like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But that's the again, like that one toolbox or that one tool can turn into 20 tools, because there's so much in Google.
Yeah, I took the tech course years ago. I definitely need to, update my Google IQ. So I think I'll be doing that at the next conference. Also, that leadership style survey that you mentioned, we do that, going through the cohort, and just a tremendous tool for any AD to be able to utilize, with their staff. Very, very cool. And all your tools were great. You also talked about, reaching out. So, one more time for our listeners, our guest has been Thomas Fredrickson, certified master athletic administrator, tech guru, middle school AD. If one of our listeners wants to reach out, and listeners, I really think you should, pick your brain, what are the best ways that they can get a hold of you?
Yep. So again, Twitter username is ADFreddy. That's ADFREDDY. Again, that's the easy way to get in touch with me. I would love to follow and connect there. I will also, I don't care, I'll give out my cell phone. My cell phone is 864-642-5890. Again, that's 864-642-5890. Again, feel free to text, call, whatever. And if you're an email person, again, I've got about 4 or 5 different emails, but the easiest email to say on here is just the middle school AD podcast @gmail.com.
Okay. AD Freddie on Twitter. He's fairly active. And again, you got all that contact information. Thanks so much for spending time with us on the Educational AD podcast. All the best in the coming year. And, hey, we'll look forward to seeing you, worst case, down in Florida for the national conference in December. But hopefully we can connect before then.
Oh yeah, well, got to give a shout out. I think your episode, you're going to be on the Middle School AD podcast here coming in the spring. I think your episode airs sometime in May. So,
Okay.
so if you're listening, look, and you're a Jake follower, look out for that in May.
All right. Hopefully we don't bring your ratings down with that episode. Okay. For our listeners, the Zoom recordings of each interview go up on the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.